Welcome to Soundbreaker. I'm your host, Bob Shammy, and we're about to break the silence. Join me as we go behind the scenes and meet some of the most influential names in the music industry. Get ready for remarkable success stories that break the norms and defy the odds. From dreams to success, from challenges to victory. An exclusive backstage pass into the lives of music trailblazers as they create their own path to success. This is Soundbreaker. Welcome to Soundbreaker. In today's episode, we're talking to Mark Garfield, who is a groundbreaker in the music industry. Mark, thank you for joining us. And for our listeners who are not familiar with Mark, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself and what do you do?
Hi, Bob. Thanks for having me firstly on the show.
My pleasure.
Yes. So my name's Mark Garfield. I started out in the industry as a drummer, actually. I still play the drums today, and I will never give it up as long as I can able to keep playing, because it keeps me sane from the day to day. So that's it's a good thing to have as a release and just to stay in touch with the music. So from being a drummer, I went on to writing songs, and then from writing songs, I went on to producing songs, and then from producing songs, I went into the publishing side of things. And
I didn't know you're also a producer. So you're a drummer, that I know. I don't know how extensive or how deep, but we'll get into that in a minute. But you're a music writer, and lyrics, or only just composing music, producing?
Yeah,
wow.
Both lyrics and music. Yeah, in fact, I just wrote a song with Glenn Matlock from the Sex Pistols, which is on his current album.
Wow.
And that was actually a mix of lyrics and music. But with this particular song, it was mainly music. But there was a few lyrics in there which I think survived. I think Glenn ended up rewriting quite a lot of it in terms of lyrics, but we ended up as a co-write with him. So that was very nice.
So my next question was, kind of you answered part of it, but I would say, how did you start it in the music industry if we go back years ago? So I guess it started with being a drummer, and how did this whole thing lead to being a drummer?
Yeah. So yeah, going way back, my first sort of break was as a drummer. My first band, we got signed to Miles Copeland's company. He had a publishing company, and so that was quite a good start in terms of we had a major player within the industry, and we ended up touring and making a record which didn't get released in the end, sadly. Not a proper release, but we kind of had a taste of it.
But you got the tour, that's the fun part, at least. Back in the day, if it's not released, there's no radio play. Correct.
Yeah, that's it. So we got to do the fun bit, which is a tour. And in fact, we did a tour with Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. So again, that was a big lesson in rock and roll, and how these old guys. Well, they seemed old to us at the time. They were younger than I am now. So I think it's funny how you go through life and you think those guys are old, and then suddenly
No, sorry. I mean, as a drummer, you also performed, in such iconic venues like the Glastonbury. Am I pronouncing it right? Glastonbury, am I right?
Glastonbury, yeah, very much.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, and that's a very iconic venue.
It is, yeah. I mean, Glastonbury Festival. I think it's probably safe to say it's the world's biggest festival, most famous festival. And it certainly becomes one of the UK's largest towns when it's on, because of the numbers of people, which is quite incredible.
Yes.
So we
want to hear about some of the experience of the early days of you being a drummer and performing there. I want to hear some of the experiences that you had there. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot. You'll give us a summary, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, before that, Glastonbury, in my first band, I played the Marquee Club here in London, and that's obviously an incredible experience to do that as a young player. And then later on, the Glastonbury thing happened. In fact, I played it twice. with a band called Neck, who were a London Irish band. So they were a little bit like the Pogues. We had traditional instruments as well as like a rock and roll band. So had fiddles and banjos and bagpipes, but plus like drums, bass, and guitar. So that was a lot of fun.
Interesting.
And we did Glastonbury twice with that band, which was a lot of fun. Amazing experience. We also ended up playing backstage parties as well. So we were playing to like the headlining acts. They were in the audience, so that was quite a bizarre.
Who did you
feeling.
play for? And like who?
Yeah, and I mean all sorts of people. I remember at the time. Do you remember that band?
Say.
Well, I think the biggest person. This is actually a sidestep because this wasn't Glastonbury. The biggest person I've ever had in the audience and recognised them as I was playing was Pete Townsend, and that was like. Okay, there's Pete Townsend from The Who. That's no pressure. No pressure at all. So, that was fun.
Great. You were also involved in really, or associated in certain ways in some projects. I don't want to say, you'll tell us what did you do. Some of the biggest remarkable names, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Phil Collins. Can you tell us about this memorable experience?
Well, those are sort of tenuous connections because that was working with people that worked with those people. But I always like to sort of talk about those things because I think the experience of working with those people and learning the stories about those great people that they were working with. So, for instance, the Hendrix connection is through Eddie Kramer. So I had the fortune to work with Eddie Kramer, the producer, who obviously produced Hendrix and set up Electric Ladyland. And he also worked with lots of other amazing bands like Rolling Stones, and Traffic is a favourite of mine that he did that not many people know too much about. But working with Eddie and learning from him and asking him sort of gradually as the session went on, it's like, so, you worked on Led Zeppelin too, that drum sound, how did you get that drum sound? And, his simple answer is you get John Bonham to do it, of course, which is
amazing.
Which is something which makes a lot of sense, actually, that a lot of the time it really is about the human behind it, not so much the production tricks and things.
Yes. I was going to ask, you didn't have any signed guitars from or a drumstick from Jimi Hendrix or some of the people that possibly you came across in the studio while you're working with others?
I do. I mean, it's funny because I do have a few things myself. I have some drumsticks from the drummer Cozy Powell. So I have a pair of his original sticks, and they are more like baseball bats and drumsticks. They are the biggest drumsticks I have ever witnessed. I mean, how he played these things is quite incredible. But
in America, they call it Louisville Sluggers. Slugger.
There you go. The Louisville Sluggers. I like that. Yeah, no, exactly. And I have a great fortune of working here at the office, which is at Rack Studios in North London. And there's so much memorabilia in this building in terms of
I'm sure
gold records and the records that were recorded here as well.
Well, you know what? Let's get into some of the meat and potato things. Now, you place music on Netflix, and on Netflix, actually, hit show Stranger Things, and which has a massive impact on pop culture, and also, as you know, for example, it kind of brought back one of the old songs of Katie Bush, and it made it chart again after 37 years. A song is charting because of the hit show, and you placed music. Now, how do you do it to kind of match that type of, like when you place music in such a hit show in Netflix, like how do you do it? What's the process of selecting music, for that show specifically?
So for that show, the music supervisor who is sort of the gateway to the show, to what music goes in the show, is Nora Felder, and she's very much hands-on in terms of working with the producers, the Duffer Brothers. So in a show like that, the Duffer Brothers will probably say, hey, we've got a couple of tunes that we definitely want in there.
Hmm.
And then Nora works with them in terms of looking at the story, and they use her expertise to work through the script and say, you know, in the case of the Kate Bush, that was very much Nora's idea. So she read the script. She came up with the idea that of the Kate Bush song that would work very well in there. So the way to get music into a show like that is to have a relationship with someone like Nora. And I suppose
Hmm.
for someone that writes music and has a catalog of music is to work with someone like Pop Up Music, like us, that work with Nora. So it's kind of a couple of stages. And the thing to remember about a show like Stranger Things is, of course, it's period music. So, you know,
Yes.
anything current from today is not going to work. But you know, when Nora was briefing out on that show, I distinctly remember on the first episodes, the first series rather, of when she
Yeah.
was reaching out saying, you know, looking for early 80s music, and you don't know what this show is going to be. So at this point, you know, there's certain reference tracks that were in there, and I remember at the time they were they had things like the Clash in there, and it was kind of, you know, cool early post punk stuff and rock stuff that was in there. So we would pitch what we have in terms of those timelines.
What do you have from your catalog? So you didn't compose any music for the show. Basically, is it
Yeah,
from the your catalog
yeah,
that that a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
the artists give you? Okay, okay,
That's
great,
correct.
great.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yes,
Because obviously the show has the composers that, you know, do
mm, yes.
they compose the
If
theme,
if
and
they need to, yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
exactly, and
Interesting,
they fill in
very
all the
interesting.
gaps. Mhm.
Again, the list go on and on. You also placed music into Tarantino's movies. One of the movie, I should say, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It was a great,
That's
iconic
correct.
film. Big stars in it, and you did also, I would say, hit shows on Netflix, Apple TV, Amazon, etc., and the list probably go on and on. Can you share some of the behind the scene stories about from of one of these high profile projects?
Yeah, well,
I
the
mean, I know you
Tarantino,
shared the first one. Yes.
yeah, yeah, but the Tarantino story is probably the best one to share, because
Uh huh.
as we all know, he only makes a certain amount of movies. You know, he hasn't made many. He's only made
Yes.
9, and he's about to do a 10th apparently. So the chances of getting music into one of his films is, you know, it's a slim thing, because there's not many slots to go in there. But with this particular movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, we had been working with Mary Ramos, the music supervisor, on
Uh
other
huh.
projects. She'd reached out to us. She liked our catalogue. She knew what sort of stuff we had. At this point, we hadn't actually done any work with Mary or landed anything, but she was very much aware of us. And at the time, just before the movie, I noticed that there was a label in Italy reissuing spaghetti westerns on vinyl. So I
Mm.
reached out to them in Rome and asked them if anyone was looking after the sync on these amazing records, and they happened to say no. So we Pop Up struck a deal with them, and started to represent these amazing spaghetti western tracks. So from
Wow.
there, what we do is, in our sort of every week, we do like a track of the week, which we put out as a blast, which goes to all of these music supervisors right across the industry. And Mary happened to be one of them. And we were putting out these spaghetti westerns with the original posters, which is quite ironic, because Quentin actually went back and used that same artist that was on all these posters that we were
Hmm.
putting out. So he got them to do all the Rick Dalton character and all those posters for the movie, which is really cool. So Mary obviously saw that we had this stuff, was working with Quentin, and she just reached out to us and said, do you have this one, and this one? There's three different titles. And
Wow,
we happened to actually have those titles. And it
lovely.
was as easy as that. A long
Wow,
story, but
amazing,
yeah.
amazing. Um, just I would say the curation level on your end to go through and listen to a lot of these songs and music just to have them qualified to be sent out to music supervisor it must be something very tense. Do you do this every day, the curation, before
Yeah.
you send music out? And
Yeah, we do. I mean, there's two of us in the company. There's myself and Jim and I,
yeah,
on a day-to-day basis, we get sent a lot of stuff. We do campaigns where we get people to send stuff into us. So every day we are
you listen to
constantly
music.
listening. Yeah,
Yeah.
every day, and just
Now,
vetting
do
it.
you take anybody's catalog? Like if somebody comes in, or producer or a studio artist, or I mean, what kind of music in your catalog? Is it just studio, or there's all kind of stuff, that's available?
It really is all kinds of stuff. But the sort of the one common denominator is we have to look at the track and go, okay, where could we see this being placed? Because we get sent a
Hmm.
lot of music which might not be appropriate, because we might think, well, this is great, but I can't really see that in a movie because the lyrics are not right, or the period's not right, or just it doesn't, not just a great song will work,
So not
although
anybody
a
could
great.
come in and just bring in their songs and music. You do kind
That's
of
right.
critique and A&R everything.
Yeah,
Like, wait a
yeah,
second,
we do.
no, this doesn't
Yeah,
fit. What do we do? Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
that leads me to my next question, which is, what's your advice? Because you're an experienced, very experienced in publishing and sync, especially because, well, I would say publishing and sync, they go hand in hand. What's your advice to musicians and songwriters who want to get into this business, not own a company like yours, no, but having their music being placed
Mm.
in movies and films and TV shows and maybe commercials, whatever chance they have? What's your advice or tip to them, how they construct their music and what to do, what not to do?
Yeah, I think that the main piece of advice is to be as unique as you can, because in this day and age, and more so in this day and age, there's so
Yeah,
much music out there that you need to stand out from the crowd. So whatever you're
correct.
doing, depending on what genre it is or what style it's in, you just need to be different from what's out there, so that you can stand out. And I think if something stands out, then you've got to stand a chance. But if it sounds very similar to something else, or too similar, then that's not going to do you any favors. So, or it just needs to be extremely good as a song within its genre.
Hmm. So quality and things that are done from the heart.
Yeah,
Quality is very
yeah, yeah,
important. Yes,
yeah. And
yes,
that's a good word, Bob. I mean, things that are done from the heart tend to
always.
be
Yeah,
always much better, in whether it's a song being played on the radio, or you're pitching to
yeah,
a record company, to an A&R man. If it comes from the heart, then it will resonate with the viewer, and
yes,
it will work.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you had an incredible journey, Mark, I would say. The music industry, we all know it, full of challenges and setback. Can you share a difficult moment or an experience that you had in the past you faced in your career in the music industry, and how did you overcome it?
Great question. I mean, I think the first 2 years of Pop Up's life was very difficult, because
Hmm.
I came into the publishing and sync side of things thinking I could kind of jump the queue a bit, because I'd worked with all these great people before. But
Hmm.
like any industry, you need to tread the boards, and you need to pay your dues, and work your way up. And I was very naive. I thought, well, I have this great music. Why are people not taking my music? So the first two years, I would say, were very frustrating and very hard. But the thing that kept me going was, well, I've got a vision here, and the music's great. and some of this music can really get placed, and I just have to believe in it. And it was going back to the song and going back to the music and just believing in the songs that they would work out, and it did.
Good. Great. Amazing. In your opinion, what is the most common, I would say, misconception in our industry, the music industry?
There's many. It's
Give us
I mean
some of the top ones at least.
yeah, I mean the top thing I hear all the time is, my music's great for sync, and I always say it's only great for sync if the project's right. And that's so true.
Yes.
It's you can have a
Yes.
great song, and it is a great song, but if the project's
It,
not right for that
it
song,
doesn't
then
fit.
it's not
Yes.
going to be great for sync. So I think
Yes.
that is something people can get a little bit deluded with, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. As you know, we all know in the music industry, collaboration is one of the key elements, how this whole thing always worked. Uh, can you share a memorable collaboration or a story of someone that you worked with that kind of left an impact on you?
I mean, I'm a great believer in collaboration, and as
Love
a
it.
writer and
Yes.
as a producer, I find collaboration is certainly something I need, because personally I need to bounce off. So I mentioned it earlier. The collaboration with Glenn Matlock was really quite
Yes.
amazing for me. I've also collaborated with Clem Burke from Blondie, and because he is again such an icon and such a great musician, the
Uh-huh.
power of the collaboration for me is to learn from him. And it was the same with Glenn, and all the other people that I've had the good fortune to collaborate with. Pete Brown, the writer, sadly died earlier this year. Also, Mo Foster sadly died this year, but a fantastic bass player. He played with Phil Collins and Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
And if anyone can collaborate with people that are better than you, it really pulls you up. And I think
Yes.
that's a good tip.
Yes. Um, we all know technology is moving faster than we ever thought, and it's significantly changing the whole landscape of the music industry. Now, would I say how advancement in technology changing your pace and what do you do, and how does it influence your work?
It's something which is really coming over the hill, as they say. It's really, if it's not even coming over the hill, it's with us. In terms of AI within our industry at the moment, we're
Yes.
in complete flux. Kind of no one really knows what's actually happening, because legally things have not been sorted out. I was on a panel, or I sat in on a panel which had
Yeah.
5 lawyers on it. My can in France, and the topic was AI, and a question from the audience was from another publisher, it was quite funny how he said it. He said, apart from you lot, who's going to make any money out of AI? Meaning, the lawyers are going to be the ones to make the money, certainly initially. Um, but until I mean, there's so many levels of how AI impacts what I'm doing in sync. In terms
How's
of
that?
in terms of, if someone gives us a song, and it's got AI generated lyrics or AI generated voices, then at the moment the copyright is not in place to handle that. So we have to be very vigilant to it's very difficult to tell. I mean, I can't tell if someone sends me a song and it's been written in the style of Bob Dylan. I mean, maybe I'll detect it by my own knowledge and ears, but it's
But
it's
what if
it's
AI
it's tricky.
advanced so much that I would look at it, the way I look at things sometimes, humans, you know, look at you. You're a drummer, you're a music writer, lyric writer, and composer. Obviously, you had to be influenced by certain sounds and certain styles of music. And, you know, you might hear something. It's like, well, that's not my style. I don't do techno. I'm more of a, band kind of style, a different. So there's all type of music you influence. I would say, look at
Mhm.
it that AI the only difference, instead of us taking us a lifetime to learn or become better, it's taking AI minutes or seconds to learn. And I wouldn't say be creative. Humans, like an artist, whether you're a painter or a musician or a writer or
Mhm.
singer, yes, it's a talent and something you have in you that to come up with new ideas that nobody did. But again, you have to be influenced by something. You cannot just
Mm.
wake up on this, say, like me waking up. I know I don't write music. I produce some stuff, but I wouldn't say, I'm gonna write a song today and I'm gonna produce it. No, I can't. It's just you have to have it in you, something that you feel it and you do it. Absolutely. But I think, in my opinion, that AI, people kind of, the misconception here is they scared of it. Well, nothing to be scared of. It could actually help and advance what we do. If it helps you as a writer or as a music composer to advance ideas, why not? I would say no.
Oh, I agree with you 100%, Bob. And I think, it's exciting because, if legally I can have a voice that is John Lennon's voice on my track doing backing vocals, and then I mix it with something completely different, then I
Yeah.
can come up with something familiar but original and very exciting. And it's just like, hang on, is that John Lennon? Well, it's not. It's an AI version, but because I've done it this way,
Yeah.
and what have you. But as I said at the start, until those legalities are sorted out as to who actually gets that money, uh, is it the AI robot, the company that generates the AI? Is it John Lennon's estate? Is it me because I programmed it or I created it? All of those
Yeah.
copyrights and royalty things are just not sorted out. So until there's law on it, then it's going to be we're going to kind of have to wait a little bit as publishers because.
Yes. Yes.
But
And
I
you're a
agree.
publisher, so you would know about the, yeah.
Yeah, I agree though, Bob. I think it's something not to be scared of. People were scared of drum
No,
machines, and
no.
look at all the great records that were made with
Oh
drum
my
machines.
God, drum machine, the little sound. I used to have a studio back in the day, and I remember all these machines. I used to buy them from, what's the name of that store? Sam something in New York.
Uh-huh.
And, the modules, all these modules used to come out with the sounds, but these sounds made by somebody, obviously. Now
Yeah,
we call it AI. Back in the day, it wasn't called AI. Samples and
yeah,
all
yeah,
type, and you use them for all your records back in all the pop records, all based on samples and
yeah,
some module sounds and all of that. You know that all the pop
yeah.
records in the '80s.
Of
From
course,
some of the biggest
of
artists.
course,
Yes, yes,
of course, and
yeah,
and it made them make records differently, and which
yes,
we all now
yes,
love, and cherish. In the Air Tonight by
yes,
Phil Collins with that
yeah,
initial drum pattern. It has not the big did
yes,
it did it did it did it did it,
yeah,
but the initial pad that enabled him to just have something because. And then him just play his keyboard and sing. So it was like a tool, a writing tool. But he kind of thought, actually, that sounds really cool. I'm going to leave that in.
yes. Yes,
So yeah,
yes.
let's
You
not
know,
be scared.
we're gonna evolve. We're gonna evolve. We're gonna evolve. I mean, I remember like back in the day when they started, when you were selling vinyl and CDs and cassettes, bootlegging was a big thing. You know,
Sure.
now
Yeah.
with digital, you cannot bootleg anymore. Sure, you could download, but downloads is no, it's all streaming. But it
Yeah.
eliminated a lot of the bootlegs stuff. A lot
Yeah.
of records being sold from the trunk or the back, whatever a lot of artists never got paid for. A lot of records were sold, but that eliminated it.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you went
Yeah.
digital, so it does have some its benefits. It's always does, and we're always going to evolve anyhow in the music business. And that's what's all about. And
Yeah.
adapting to new ways of making music. Um, how do you stay updated and innovative in what do you do? Like, what do you follow as far as new trends and things like what do you do?
Yeah. A number of things, really. I mean, the location where I am here at the studio in Rack is very good. There's big contemporary artists coming through all the
Yeah,
time, and you kind of get a wind of what people are doing. So that's good. I also attend a lot of conferences. I've just come back from BOM in Bogota, so I was
Mm-hmm.
speaking at that, and also went as a buyer to sign up music. So seeing what great music's coming out of Colombia. So by being going to these conferences, I was at the Future Music Forum in Barcelona, where lots
How
of
was that?
leading experts. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, really, really good. I wish I could have been there longer and caught up some more of the panels, because there was a few people that were speaking on different subjects that I'd like to have sat in on, because it's all key and it's all information, and these people really know what's round the corner.
Hmm. Interesting. Can you give us some
Yeah.
examples or some, you
Yeah,
know?
so I mean, I was at a party on Tuesday night, and I was speaking to a
Yeah.
lawyer, and
Yeah.
I don't know how confidential this is, but I'm not going to name names, so it doesn't matter. But essentially, um, there's a lot of talk about ticketing, and how ticketing can hold information, like Facebook holds information about, okay, you have a certain fan that buys a ticket, but they might bring a friend that's not the fan of the band, and it's like, how do you harvest that information about not the fan, but of the friend that came along? And it's just like, okay, so how do we reach out to that person that came to the concert? And just things like this I find really interesting to know about, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what the industry is doing, in terms of helping artists and labels, and find their audience and things like this.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Which,
Interesting.
yeah.
Um, I've decided to create this podcast pretty much because I came across tremendously a lot of inspiring people and with great stories. And throughout my career in this music industry, over 25 years plus, um, and I wanted to inspire others like myself,
Hmm.
and with who had, I would say, a very unique path in the music industry. And I'm sure many of
Yeah.
our listeners also seeking a breakthrough, the noise, and to succeed in this business. And as we both know, this business has a lot of the gatekeeping in it,
Yeah.
and very saturated too. Can you give us some strategies and on how individuals can navigate uh, throughout these challenges and some of the obstacles and the gatekeeping?
Yeah. I think turning up is a key. You've got to
Hmm.
get out there and you've got to turn up to things, because although a lot of things are online, and which is fantastic, and you can do a lot of work by working online, I also think that there's a lot of opportunities where, actually, if you still connect with that human being behind a project. So things like I was mentioning, things like the Future Music Forum in Barcelona. Next week, I'm going to a thing called So Alive in Bulgaria, which
Hmm.
is it's going to showcase bands, and it's going to have a lot of industry experts, people coming from the States, the UK, all over. So I think you need to get out there and network. But I also think people need to play live still. Um, if you're coming from an artist background, I mean, if you're coming from wanting to get into what I do, or what a PR person does, or a plugger does, or any of these other
Yeah.
roles, music supervisor, you have to turn up, and you have to work out who are the gatekeepers, who are these people. Then you need to start to develop a network, of
Make the
people,
connection.
and make a
Yes.
connection. Because it's like,
And
Bob,
be
if
out
I
there.
speak,
Yes.
be out there. And, it's like, if I speak to you and I say, hey, Bob, you've been in the industry 25 years. I'm like, have you got any records that you recorded back in XYZ that you can let me have? And it's
Yes.
about that. It's about me knowing people, and it's about
Yes.
me getting that record, and then I can go, hey, I've got Bob's record from the 90s that he recorded in 94 or whatever, and, here it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Stuff like that. Then it's not about being lucky. It's not about making luck. It's just about turning up. 70
Yes.
percent of success is actually just turning up, apparently.
Well
and
said, my
and do
friend.
it.
Well said. Yes, well
Also,
said.
finish things. A lot of people don't finish
Finish what you
things.
started. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, because if you particularly with music and records, it's just like just finish it. It doesn't matter. Move on to the next thing and get it done. But
Be,
get it done.
and
If
be
you've got it
consistent.
finished, be
Yes,
consistent. Yeah, but that could
yes.
also mean following up people. It's just like, wow,
Correct.
I met that guy at that network thing, and I thought he was really good, but I hadn't heard from
Yes.
him. Well, you only emailed him once. Give him another email or her.
That's it. I always say we in the follow-up business. Besides being in the creative, artistic business, we in the
We
follow-up business. This is a
we
big thing
are
in the music business.
we are
Yes,
in the follow up business because as you know, we're not at the top of the mind all the
yes,
time. And you need to be
absolutely.
front of mind, and that front of mind
Yeah.
thing is just like it's so important. It really is to be in the front of mind. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to appreciate all these wonderful insights and tips that you've given us. Mark, before we wrap up, anything that you'd like to plug in, any projects that you're working on, please feel free. Any surprises, any interesting things?
As we speak, I'm just waiting for the Music and Sound Awards. We were nominated for the best sync. So I don't know if
Lovely.
we've won it yet. We might well have won it. We might have just be the nominee. But either
When does
way,
that take place? Is it something online
it's
or is it a
taking
live
place right
event?
now. Yeah, it's
Oh,
taking place
okay.
right now, and they release the results. So, but that's a really really great thing to be nominated. So we're nominated for best sync in a feature film, and the film
Uh-huh.
was Mafia Mama, which we had an old Italian track from which was called Via from the 1960s. It's a
Uh-huh.
wonderful track. So anyway, we'll find out later.
Is
But either
there
way,
a
it's good.
website or is it online that people could go to? Like
It's
how
the
to watch it?
Sound of Music Awards, and they actually
Sound of Music Awards.
Sound
Okay.
and Music Awards. Yeah,
Oh, Sound and Music Awards. Okay. Okay.
and that's they really actually because they normally would have done a in-person event. Since the pandemic, they stopped doing it that way, so they're releasing it on Twitter. It's just not called Twitter
Oh,
anymore. So
okay.
that's the
Sound of Music
results.
Awards.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Sound of
Okay.
Music Awards. Yeah, but it's
Well, the
yeah
best
it,
of
with it.
luck.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's coming up. So that's worth a mention.
So what? They send you like a plaque or something when you win, or
If we
just
win, we get a good, nice trophy. Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Well, congrats, my
Right.
friend. You're well deserved. I mean, an impressive, I would say, resume. Very impressive. The names that
Thank you,
you
Bob.
dropped and you worked and you placed music in, absolutely something to be proud of, my friend. And
Thank you. Much
happy to
appreciated.
have you. Well, I guess all good things come to an end. I want to say thank you for joining us today. And this concludes today's episode at Soundbreaker. Please make sure to follow us on social media and all our social media and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you. See ya.
Thank you, Bob. Take care.
My pleasure. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye now. Bye.
This podcast is presented by Music Dash, world's first AI-powered independent distribution CMS. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share the Soundbreaker Podcast. And if you are joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.